How about now? Excellent. I'm going to guess that your thumbs up is saying you can hear me. Excellent. Right, yes, I do have to begin again. Hello, thank you all. And yes, this is the 5th anniversary of re-enthused, the 5th year of making films about stuff that nobody cares about and are way past their sell by date on the internet. Now, hopefully this sounds okay now I've actually remembered to add the audio source. By fault, yes. But also the microphone is quite a way over there, although it's a good microphone, so it should still pick me up. But we do have a light here, which is quite a noisy light because it's really designed for photography rather than video. We'll get to the reason why we have a light above us. Is it laggy? Not a huge deal I can do about that, unfortunately. Yeah, that's not a huge deal I can do about the lag, I'm afraid. It usually clears itself up after a while. There's also a fan behind me because even though it's sub-zero temperatures in Basingstoke, I am sweating because I am fat. So, what's this stream about? Okay, so yeah, 5 years since we started making videos on YouTube. And the first video we made, although not actually the first one we uploaded, but the first video we made was a video where we took a look at lots of handhelds. And back then it was kind of the whole re-enthused, which was a lot of us. It's just really, it's me and occasionally Erica now. But it might be. So we took a look at a bunch of handheld game consoles, and I figure for 5 years, for our 5th year anniversary, we just do the same again, except this time live. That video wasn't very good. It's still up there. It's the first video on re-enthused because the ones that were uploaded before it, they were kind of I was even less happy with those, so I got rid of them. But yeah, so that's still up there. You can look at it. It's not a great video, but it was our first one. That's all that matters. So what we're going to do is I've got a list of my handhelds. There's a lot of them. I've also got the date and the years on there because there's no way I'm going to remember years. Not a chance. Hello, Daniel. You should be in bed. Why aren't you in bed? Daniel was my grandson, by the way, to everyone else on here. ADP Cat, by the way, say hello to her, and she also streams, so if you like kind of like the CODs and things like that, then yeah, YouTube is not great, especially when you're multi-streaming. I felt I had to multi-stream. Hello, Taz. Good to see you. I can't read. Is that Sam? I can't tell. You're dark blue, and I'm a long way from the screen. Yeah, if you like COD and stuff, my daughter streams COD, so by all means join up to her. Right. Oh, thank you very much, Snorks. Generous as always. Right. Yes, anyway, digression, lots of digression, but you're used to that, so it's fine. Yeah, so I've got a list of my handhelds here with the years because I would never remember them. There's also a little bit of a factoid on there, just so I remember what factoid, but they've mostly come from my book anyway, so it's fine. Ooh, look at that, we've got an emote. Thank you, Snorkers. Blimey, thank you very much. Right. Anyway, we should probably just start because there's a lot of them. We'll try to probably just go over a few of them, and maybe we'll go back and we'll actually play some games on some. It's not going to be ideal. I've got this light up here because a lot of these screens were not really designed, well, if I'll be honest with you, a few of these screens I don't think were designed for human eyes, but a lot of them were not designed to be inside anything except bright light. So we've got a light just above us, and we'll see what we can do. Right, so the first one, so it's in date order, and to start us off well, I haven't got the first one here. It's in the cupboard of goodies, buried somewhere. I can't find it. To be honest, it's not the. Thank you for hosting, Taz. To be honest, it's not the. It's not the most impressive of handhelds anyway. I love owning it. It's great. So it's the MB Microvision. If you haven't seen one before, they're considered to be the first real handheld gaming console. Yeah, I think the sound is a bit wonky, but I don't know. I can't fix it. It may be streaming. Let me see if I can start freeing up some resources. My poor PC is getting a little bit beyond the times as well. Alright, hopefully that's good enough. Hopefully you can understand what I'm saying, that's all that matters. Yeah, so the only microvision, considered to be the first handheld console, that's debatable. But like a lot of machines at that time, although it had technically cartridges, it was really just a kind of a pass-through system, and all the game and the process and the stuff were actually in the cartridges itself. I say the quote fingers because the cartridges were basically giant screens that put an overview on the screen as well. But anyway, it's a fantastic little machine, and I have done a video on it. But yeah, it's buried somewhere and I couldn't get it in time. So anyway. Right, but what we do have is the Entex Select-a-game. Now this is genuinely a fascinating device. So Entex were most famous for their toy ranges. So they did quite a lot of toys, like lots of rip-off toys as well as some official ones. But they also did some LCD games, and they got a few licenses. Like they had the Pacman license. Where did I put that? Oh, here, right here. So they had the Pacman license, and they decided to make a handheld cartridge-based system. And this isn't an LCD screen, this is a vacuum fluorescent display, which basically means like a lot of lights that come on and show the game off. We will show this one off at some point because it is really fascinating to see this thing go and how it interprets games. It does use cartridges. They are mostly just kind of like logic switches more than anything, but they really are cartridges. And so they got a lot of licenses, including Pacman. However, they didn't have Pacman when they released this, but they decided to release the game anyway, and lawsuits ensued. So this is a moderately rare game. Although they say it's moderately rare, I've got this one fairly easily, and not for a very high price. So I don't know what moderately rare means. The thing about this is, again, it's just lots of little lights. You can potentially, if I angle this right, you can potentially see the grid of lights. And so it just moves lights or turns lights on and off. And you have these little overlays, which make the game. It's a really good machine. It works a lot better than it sounds like. Space Invaders especially is fantastic on here, and it's weird. It's just a lot of lights moving around, but it works really well. Right, that was released in 1981. Right, the Epoch Game Pocket Computer. So this is I've talked about Epoch a lot. They are one of my favourite relatively it's my relatively unknown gaming consoles. They're companies. They're one of my favourites. They released the cassette vision, the Super Cassette Vision. They had a lot of impact in the industry. They were Nintendo's biggest threat in the Famicom generation. Famicom weren't worried about Sega. They were worried about Epoch. In the end, they didn't need to. They destroyed them. But they did have a huge impact on the industry, and they're relatively unknown. And this is kind of a little handheld machine they released. Now I don't have any games for this, but it doesn't matter. There's some inbuilt ones, so we'll stick some batteries in it just to show. Hello, Jessie. Jessie is my granddaughter. I know. I'm sure you're all amazed by the fact that such a young-looking man has got grandchildren. I know, it's all right. Oh, there we go. It powers on. It's always going to be interesting to see which machines power on and which ones don't. To be honest, yeah, this one needs a little bit of attention. I've had to fix this machine a couple of times. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Look at that. Look at that sexiness. We angle it just right. Thank you for following, AJ Reese. forgot to put the alerts on. There we go. So it does have games like this, a little slide puzzle, and it's also got what looks remarkably like Etch-a-Sketch. So there we go. This is what is effectively Etch-a-Sketch. Look at that. So that's the built-in stuff. Now this oh blimey! Thank you very much, Hatch Lord. This is just one of the very early consoles that you've seen from after the other two, and it just didn't sell. They ended up releasing 6 games for it, and that was it. They disappeared. Oh, hello Raiders! Thank you very much. Welcome to the stream. It's our 5th anniversary. Well, on YouTube, and we're looking at some handhelds because it mirrors the first video we ever released. Thank you very much for following, Contra. I really didn't set this up well, I've got to say. I made a whole new scene for this thing so I could have a fancy dashboard. Apologies. I've just forgot to set those up, like the microphone. What can I say? I'm a pro streamer. Yeah, I know. Sorry about the audio. My PC is indeed of some maintenance, and I do not think it is handling things well today. Yeah, welcome. Yeah. There's a fan behind me, so that won't be helping. The light up here is very noisy, but it's necessary for the handhelds because handhelds do not like being outside light. Right, so yeah, that was released in 1984, and now we get to the machine, which probably yeah, the YouTube channel is re-enthused. It will pop up in the chat at some point. It's kind of random when it pops up, but it will pop up. Yeah, 5 years. There's over 350 videos on there covering lots of retro stuff, not just gaming, also TV and toys as well. Yeah, please do subscribe. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Right, thank you for following Free Tohoff. I really wish I'd set up the alerts. It makes things a lot easier. Right, anyway, now we're moving on to a machine that a lot of you will recognise anyway. And that is from 1989, the original Nintendo Game Boy. So this has got a fascinating life. This is the Microvision, which I didn't show you earlier on. Gunpei Yokoi, who helped design the Game Boy, came up with the original idea. He states the Microvision has been one of his inspirations. They kind of helped him take the Game & Watch idea and move it to a cartridge-based system. And the Game Boy was utterly hated by Nintendo's board when it first came out. They gave it nicknames about the screen being terrible and sluggish, and they weren't sure about it at all. And then, of course, when it released, well, we all know what happened. It sold like gangbusters and basically destroyed every other handheld forever from then on. So, yeah, I mean, it's incredible to think that Nintendo were considering not releasing the Game Boy now. It's a weird word it would be if we didn't have the Game Boy. It's a fantastic little machine as well. This one is, as they all do, is suffering a little bit from screen burn. I need to change the polarizing film, as I do on a couple of my machines. But it still works, and I didn't really have to do anything to it either. So, given its age, they were well-built machines. He says that, and it won't turn on. So, there we go. Let's get the right angle. Ooh, there we go. There we are. You can just about see that. Suffering a little bit, like I said, from screen burn, so the screen isn't perfect. Anyway, thank you very much. So yeah, I mean this This didn't start the handheld revolution, not by any means, but it absolutely made it successful. And really, no handheld manufacturer has managed to get close. It's an incredible legacy that the Game Boy's got, where machines that were far better, technically far better anyway, couldn't touch it. And it's astonishing. Sony produced arguably the best consoles out there, and they produced two really, really good handhelds in the PSP and Vita ranges, but they still couldn't touch the the success of the Game Boy. An astonishing feat, and the Switch, of course, is carrying that on wonderfully. Now it's still the best-selling console, even though all the new consoles come out. I think with very little stock by the looks of it. Right, now next, indeed, one of the manufacturers that attempted to compete with Sega with a machine that is certainly vastly more technically potent was Atari with the Lynx. Atari obviously being at that point one of the biggest names in gaming, although slightly diminished, obviously. But they released this machine, which was designed by Epoch, but Epoch couldn't build it, so they went to a few other manufacturers, including Sega, who turned it down, and in the end, Atari decided to partner with them to make it, with Atari producing the hardware and Epoch agreed to make a line of games for it. And it's wonderful. It's one of my favourite handhelds. It is a really, really good handheld. These batteries like anyone's business, but it's a powerful machine, and the guts are very reminiscent of the Commodore Amiga, which unsurprising because a lot of the designers of that original chipset were involved in making this. So 6 batteries, 6 AA batteries, which will run out in no time if we leave it in here. You can do a screen mod, I haven't done it yet, but that will reduce the amount of battery power it needs. That'll disappear in a second. Right, there we go. We can just about see that. So I have got a flash card in here, the one rather wonderful Retro HQ one. Although I do have most of the games for the Lynx, not all of them, but most of them. Let's get you at a good angle. Turn the brightness down a little bit. Oh, there you go. Can you see Rampage? And for the time, this was an astonishing piece of kit, considering that it was competing against the Game Boy, which was a black and white screen with very rudimentary graphics and sound. And this came out the year afterwards. The camera is basically working. I hope you like my setup, by the way. This is my patented webcam gaffer taped to a lighting rod. So it's working very well for this situation. And there we are. It is Rampage. It's slightly zoomed in, obviously, but it's Rampage, and it plays just like Rampage in the arcades. And it was a handheld games machine. Do apologise. I cough quite a lot. We had the human malware in this house, and it has somewhat diminished things, including my. I'm getting into playing the game, and I'm forgetting that I'm also showing other people the game. Ooh, being shot. Go on. Destroy the building. There we go. Oh, we ate someone. Rampage is such an amazing game. Oh, jump. Well, we didn't jump in time. Yeah, so a really, really good handheld. Now this one is the Mark II, which is a slight improvement over the first one. There's just slightly better electronics, tiny bit better battery life. It added in the ability to turn off the backlight and stuff if you were trying to save. I don't know what good that would have been. They wouldn't be able to see the screen, but I'm sure there was a reason for it. And it moved the cartridge slot to a better place. It used to be underneath the thumb grips, and it was hard to get cartridges in and out. The original model came out in 1989, just a year after the Game Boy. and it's a good game. It came out on so many platforms as well. But yeah, it works really well on the Lynx. A lot of people complain about the Lynx screen, saying that it's ghosty and stuff, but considering the time it came out, it's an impressive device, especially when you look at some of the competitors, which we will be, of course, looking at some of the competitors. And especially when you compare it to the Game Boy, which black and white, well, monochrome screen, sorry, it did have some shades of grey, and also really ghosty as well, the original one. That is the original screen, yeah. I haven't done any screen mods to it. I'm tempted to get the Mac wheel in there, but honestly, whenever I play it, I never have an issue with the screen. Right, so next, I've got my list, by the way, of handhelds, because there's, I forget, I'm trying to do them in year order, and there's no chance I'm going to forget the year. It was my other daughter's birthday the other day, and I couldn't remember. I knew it was a birthday, I got it right, but I couldn't remember which ones it was. They kind of bookend Christmas. So, yeah, I forgot my own birthday twice, so I'm not going to remember the years of console releases. Right, so next is the Sega Game Gear. Obviously, we know Sega. I've got two Game Gears here, and I'm not sure which one works. My preparation for this has been disgusting. Well, it was mostly setting this up and gaffer taping the webcam to the pole. All vital things. Right, again, there's another 6 batteries. We're going to come up to a machine in a minute, in a few machines' time, where this 6 batteries malarkey will just be extra astonishing. So just remember these machines that are using 6 batteries to get this colour screen. I'm just going to turn this on because I'm not sure if this one works. Oh, we've got a lit up screen. Is that? I've got one Game Gear where the screen doesn't work properly, and I've got a Game Gear which basically works. Game Gears are not the most reliable of machines, and they're really hard to replace the screen in as well, because of the way they develop the screen. Right, give a bit of a wipe as well on that. Hopefully this one works, otherwise that means I've run out of Game Gears. Oh no, I've got one other one somewhere. Somewhere there's one. There's a red one somewhere. There was some very weird yeah, Erica is my birthday reminding system. I remember your birthday's in January 13th, I think. Okay, I don't think we've got a working Game Gear here. Oh, no, there we go. We have a Game Gear. Yeah, I think this one needs the caps replaced because the sound, if I remember rightly, is a... Oh, no, this one's alright. This one's fine. Look at that. Sounds good. Yeah, you see? I'm not terrible. I like to believe that I'm a better father than I had any right to be. Sega used not terrible caps, but not the greatest caps ever, and they tended to overdrive them and put them into areas that got very hot, which are not things that caps enjoy. And that is especially true in the Game Gear. Yeah, absolutely. Oh. See, the problem is I'm trying to look at the screen and I can't read anything, so I'm going to have to... Yeah, our Game Gear Outrun is very good. Right, Mickey, will you just... Oh, there we go. Right, okay. We're there. This is a very good game as well. Considering the fact that everyone was wowed by the Mega Drive version of this, and then the Game Gear version was just almost as good. fantastic little handheld, but quite unreliable, and also, again, as a common theme, it's batteries. But yeah, you can get a replacement screen, and you can replace, if you don't want to replace the whole screen, you can replace the backlight with LEDs, and that will reduce its power consumption by a lot as well. Right, now next came one manufactured by, I've just cleaned the screen by the way, nothing else. A machine by one of my favourite console manufacturers of all time, NEC, and this is their PC Engine. You know what? I haven't got a game for this. Hold on, bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to reach up to the shelf up here and get a game. Oh my word! I've chosen a bad game. Never mind. I've chosen the Kung Fu. If you know the PC Engine, you know that's one of the worst games in existence. Yeah, I've got two of the aerials. I've got an unboxed one and an unboxed one. I might make a reprise. I made a video a while ago when I was testing out the PC Engine LT, which is like a semi-portable PC Engine, but not quite like this, and much better than this actually. But it can really be portable because it had a power supply. But that has an aerial which can pick up television, but of course it can only really pick up Japanese television. Plus, we don't actually have broadcast television anymore. So I had that picking up a Bandai RX-78 going across the FM, the Fujitsu video sender aerial thing. It was an interesting video to make. I might do a reprise using this. Well, using this or using the Game Gear, because this has also got a TV adapter. Right. So this is the PC Engine Express. And the thing with this one is, once we get it to actually pick up the game, there we go. The thing with the PC Engine Express was, it used the normal games of the PC Engine. So you had the home console PC Engine, and this would just use the exact same games, and that was the impressive thing. What's not quite so impressive is the screen is awful. It's by far the worst screen of all of these machines. That's not to say it's unplayable. It's absolutely not. And it is a PC Engine in a handheld form. It's amazing. Excellent. It does seem to clear itself up, the lag, after a while. But this game, by the way. This is the worst game on the PC Engine by far. You literally just walk along and kick and punch people. And there's flying inferno sperm. That's what it looks like. These are wonderful little machines. But like I say, the screen is not the greatest. But you know what? They do just play normal PC Engine games. Plus the battery life is slightly better than the Lynx and the Game Gear. Not hugely. We're talking like probably an hour maybe. But considering the fact this is a proper full-on console in a handheld guise. Is there a brightness on this? There is, isn't there? Yeah. Does nothing. Nothing. Right. Anyway, yes. It's an amazing. I will play that, even though it's a terrible game. I love the PC Engine so much. I would play that constantly. It's a fascinating device, but again, the screen. They chose a screen which I think was probably the best they could get at the time for to display what they needed to display the amount of colours and stuff that they had to display, and it meant that it was a very poor screen. The problem is that there's quite a lot of RPGs on the PC Engine, and you can't read any text on that screen. The text is just completely unreadable unless you get your face right up to the screen and read slowly. And it's a shame because, like I say, it's a wonderful machine. Although, quite again, the caps in this go really bad, and they're really hard to replace because it's all really crammed in. Right. Okay, next. Well, this this one's absolutely a winner. So yeah. So anyway, the PC Express was not the PC Express, the Sega Game Gear. They were both 1990. So only a couple of years after the Game Boy. Well, a year and a bit after the Game Boy. Impressive advances in a very short period of time. Now this is the opposite of the impressive advance. So this is the Watara Supervision, although released in the UK by Quickshot, who used to make joysticks. If you go back that far, this was released in 1992, so 3 years after the Game Boy, and it is basically a Game Boy, but in a very, very big housing. So it angles, so you can bend it up, so you can do that. Unfortunately, it's also top heavy, so that doesn't really help. But it's, yeah. So the idea is it's a Game Boy. That's really the idea. The cartridges are very similar as well, although with an exposed PCB edge. The plastic is so bad on these machines. You've got to be really careful not to snap anything because it's quite thin. It takes the Game Boy. Remember, took 2 batteries. This takes 2. Or was it 4? I can't remember. I know the Colour takes 2. But anyway, this takes 4 AA's. Came out 3 years after the Game Boy. Oh, how if I put the game in? And yeah. I will say better sound than the Game Boy. Absolutely. Did I just say better sound than the Game Boy? It is better sound than the Game Boy. It's not good still, but it's better. But yeah. Monochrome, smudgy graphics, ghosting. Considering the advances that they made in a year over the Game Boy with the PC Engine Express, the Game Gear, the Lynx, and then this came out 3 years afterwards. It's such a bad machine. It really is. I think I mean, I bought a lot of these machines before I knew what they were, because a lot of my collection just comes from a long time ago, before really anyone was making videos about this stuff. And so yeah, a few of the things I bought, I didn't know they were going to be rubbish when I bought them. It didn't matter, I kept them anyway. This one, to be fair, I did know it was rubbish when I bought it. I think Ashens did a video on it before I bought one. Yeah, I think Stuart made a video on it, and I still bought one, and I'm not I'm not unhappy I did. There's a certain joy in a truly terrible device. Trying to find somewhere to put things safely. Right. So, yes, that was 1992, 3 years after the Game Boy, with the exact same issues as the Game Boy. It's true, you still get really nasty little handhelds being made now. If you make them cheap and then put them in a stocking, then people will buy them. Alright, well, I mean, I think this is one that pretty much everybody knows. I don't think I'm going to be turning this one on, I'm afraid, because I don't know where the power supply is for a start. But yes, the Nintendo, oh, it's too big. The Nintendo Virtual Boy. Nintendo's great failure. The one that everyone kind of knows about. There we go. In its nice eggshell carton. So, this is a handheld. Oh no, I do have the battery pack. Okay, maybe we will. No, in fact, there's no point. I mean, I could kind of angle it underneath here, but I don't think that would help you. Yeah. So I don't know if you've never seen the. Oh, I just pulled off the. It's all right. It's meant to. Don't worry. It just pushes back on. There we are. If you've never seen the Game Boy, the Virtual Boy before, there we go. This is. Yeah. So this is Nintendo's not first flop. They had flops before, which I'd just kind of forgotten, really. But this was their big, well-known flop. And like Pete says, it's not as bad as it's made out. Not even nearly. It's not the best thing ever, but some of the games on this are really, really good. Oh, I really have pulled that off, haven't I? I'll put it back on in a minute. Yeah, some of the games on this are actually really, really good. Like the Mario, the Wario Land game is really, really good. The I can't remember the name of it. The one where you're looking down on someone. That's I know, very descriptive. That's a really good game. Really, it's a fun game. And it doesn't make everybody sick. I can play this for a good 2 hours without feeling anything on most of the games. I know Erica tried it and she felt a bit queasy after not very long, so it hits different people different ways. But it's not bad, and it was for a very long time the most powerful console that Sega had. It had a 32-bit RISC chip inside it, and so for a while it was the most powerful console Nintendo released. So yeah, it gets a bad rap because it was a failure, but it was largely a failure because Nintendo didn't really know how to market it and didn't know really what they were doing with it. They made a lot of really bad decisions with the Virtual Boy, but then, yeah, I mean that's one of the problems they did. The whole weird thing where they tried to make it into a kind of weird giant headset thing was a problem. It didn't really need to be a giant headset. They could have just as easily made it a kind of a desktop unit properly, rather than something that looked like it should be a headset. But yeah, it's not as bad as it's made out, and there are some good games on it that a lot of them aren't available anywhere else. Although they are starting to try to release games, aren't they, on the virtual console now, or whatever the modern equivalent is. I don't really own modern consoles, so I don't know. That sounded really hipster, didn't it? I genuinely don't, although I'm thinking about getting a PS5 in the new year. Yeah, it's not as bad as everyone makes out. It's a really powerful machine. Like I say, 32-bit RISC-based chip, based machine. It was more powerful than a lot of Nintendo consoles for a while after it came out. And it was the 3D really does work very well as well. But yeah, still technically a failure because it didn't sell very many units. Right, okay, the Tiger. I haven't got the Tiger R-Zone up here because there's no point showing it. It's awful. So if you don't know Tiger are the ones that make all those little LCD games. And at one point they said, "Oh, this cartridge thing is really taking off. We should probably make something to get into that." And no, I definitely haven't got it up here. Yeah, I don't care about the machine. That's the problem with the RO one. And they effectively just took their little crappy LCD games, put them into a cartridge form, and then made it project onto a red screen to give it a kind of holographic effect, like a 3D holographic effect. They're awful. They're not worth owning. Even now, as a collector, I don't think they're worth owning. They came out in 1995. This is not the only entry for Tiger on this list either. This is a crazy little machine. So this is the Bandai Design Master. Now, generally this would just be we'd just be saying this is just another LCD game, and then forget about it and walk away. No, that's the broken one. I've got two of them. One has got really, really bad screen burn. I need to change the polarizing film on it. The other one is okay. I think this is the okay one here. Yes, this is the okay one. But there's a few things that make this kind of interesting. So this is it. This is the machine. It's got this nifty little screen cover. The reason why it's got this screen cover is because this is a touch screen. So that's the first thing that's quite interesting. Get the mouse out of the way. Get out of the way, mouse. There we are. So that's the first thing that's interesting about this machine. The second thing is the way it does its games. So it's called the Design Master, which is an odd name, obviously, but it's got a reason for that. And that's because some of the cartridges have got this second connector. And that's because this is basically a graphics cartridge. So this has got characters from Rockman, which is... oh, what's the series called? The robot one. Memory. Great, my memory. people know what I mean anyway. Yeah, and this has got characters on that end, but you can take that and you can take a game that isn't one of these ones, which is this one. You see, this one doesn't come apart. Put it on top, and then these characters, Mega Man, thank you very much. And then these characters will appear in this game, which is it's an astonishing little thing. Now the games aren't very exciting at all. They're just very lackluster choose option games, so like almost like quiz ones. But it's still an interesting enough idea. Yeah, so we've got another Mega Man, Rockman cartridge there, which isn't a character one. We've got some Street Fighter 2. It's not a fighting game. That's a duplicate of that one. And then we've got another character one, which is a Dragon Ball Z one. I want to say Z, obviously, because I'm British, but they pronounce it Z, so I guess we pronounce it Z. Right, we'll put some batteries in it, but there's going to be odds on if you see this. Ooh, okay, the batteries are just flying everywhere. It'll be odds on if you see this or not, because even on this one, which has got a relatively good screen, it's still quite faint. I haven't got the pen for it either. I've never managed to get the pen. I think Quang's got one with the pen in. Right, so let's do. We'll put Street Fighter on. Yeah, it goes that way. I think we'll put Street Fighter on the Mega. I think it was Mega Man. And then if we turn it on. Come on, do something. Okay, that wasn't happy. Oh, it was more happy. I guess it didn't want that combination to happen. I didn't realise you could only do certain combinations, but there you go. That's even less interesting. Yeah, you see the screen's there, and I can click. Yeah. Let's just push Street Fighter in then. Give it what it wants. There we go. So, can you see that? I don't think it's there. Yeah, there is. There's... Yeah, no. That's literally, I can do it slightly brighter or slightly darker. I think that's the best you're going to get, though. God, and you see, look at that refresh rate. So... Oh, no, that's better. Actually, yeah, that is better. There you go. You can see that now, yeah? So that's Street Fighter, and if we click on the screen, we get to choose an option. Come on. Choose an option. Oh, okay. I think the screen... There you go, and we just get to do a bit of art using using Street Fighter and puzzles and stuff. So it's not a fantastic machine, but it is very interesting. It's considered to be the first the first touchscreen console. I don't know if it is or not. I'm sure there was one before this, but I can't for the life of me remember what it was. And it's not really saying much anyway. It's not really a huge claim to fame. Right. The next one is the Sega Nomad. So the Sega Nomad is another one with an interesting life. This will be fine. You'll be able to see this one fine when we turn it on. So this is a Mega Drive, or in fact in this case a Genesis, in handheld form. And it came about an interesting way. Is that a Sega engineer, whom rumor is that he was desperate to get a project working, because he had a few failures. Was on a plane in Japan, and Japan had recently made a line of games machines for the aeroplane, for Air Japan, I think it was. and they were effectively tiny versions of a Mega Drive that connected to a screen on the back of your seat, and you plugged a controller into them and you could play the games. And the engineer saw that and he thought to himself, well, okay, that's tiny, it's battery powered. All I've got to do, or could be battery powered, let's say, all I've got to do is stick a screen on that, then it will just be a handheld Mega Drive. And so he put the idea forward. I have changed this screen, as you can see by the AV1 that pops up in the corner. There are better ways of doing it. There we go. The normal screen in this is quite good, but it does die quite easily. And mine had lines all the way down. Megajet, thank you. I was trying to remember the name. Yeah, and so they just took the technology they made to miniaturize the Mega Drive for the Megajet, and they made a handheld out of it. This is Moonwalker, which is the weirdest game ever. Also, I'm not personally enamoured with the game either. It's quite dull, really. But more importantly, it's literally a Mega Drive running in a handheld, and the battery life isn't atrocious. It's not great, but it's not too bad. Now I've replaced the screen, I'm getting an extra hour of battery life as well, so that's pretty good. But yeah, it's a handheld Mega Drive, and it's pretty good. Didn't go very far. I used a reversing, 3.5-inch reversing screen for a car. I made a video on it, the replacement process. The hardest part of it is getting it all to fit in there, because you've got to have wires going quite a long distance, and getting all the stuff to fit in is the hardest part of that. Yeah, Japan didn't want it because they were kind of... the Mega Drive was never a huge hit in Japan. It did okay, but it was only really third place in Japan. The PC Engine beat it for most of its life. Just near the end, it started to take over, and obviously the Super Nintendo destroyed it completely. So Sega Japan weren't really interested in making a handheld one, same as they weren't interested in doing the 32X, etc., etc., etc. And so it was really only released in America and not to great numbers. So it's moderately rare, not immensely rare, but moderately rare. Right, okay, so this is an awful machine. Where did I put it? Oh, I stacked it. I stacked the Virtual Boy on top of it, which is just a slight indication of my feelings towards it. So here's our second entry from Tiger. And this is the tigergame.com. So we saw that Watara and Quickshot decided to release a machine 3 years after the Game Boy, with largely the Game Boy technology. So this possibly didn't have it wasn't that bad, but it was still a black and white machine released in 1997, which, bearing in mind, we'd had all those other colour handhelds, which admittedly had all failed, to be fair as we can to Tiger, but they still decided that it was the right thing to release this. And they didn't just release a handheld either. They decided to release a kind of a whole personal organizer. So this is a touchscreen with things like calendars and everything. The screen is awful, yes, but it is quite clear, which is kind of an odd combination. But it's yes, you've got all these different things on here. So you've got calculator, you've got calendar, you've got diaries and stuff. But obviously we're here for the games, and it's got 2 cartridge slots. For some reason I don't have the games that came with it, like Batman. They're around somewhere. What I do have is Resident Evil 2 and Fighters Megamix. And I know why I've got those in there, because they are the two games that suffer the most from this screen. Tiger gets slated a lot, but they did a lot for people that couldn't afford consoles back in the day. I was one of those people, so really bad speech at the beginning. So now we've got a cartridge in, we can kind of go across slowly. Why aren't you showing me the games? Right, okay, no, there's the cart. I couldn't read it. There's the cartridge. The cartridge is up in the corner. Right, just choose the cartridge for me. This does have a pen. Cartridge, do cartridge, goddamn you. Finally, right. So, yeah, so we have two cartridges there. This is quite clever. I do kind of like this part of it. You can have two games in there, and it shows them up there, and you get to choose them, and it knows what they are. I do like that. That's very nice. But then we get into the games. It's a lovely bit of animation. And it's a shame I haven't got Batman, because Batman is just an awful game to play. Right. There we are. Fighters Megabits. See, the screen is quite clear. I've got no problem with the screen at all. Apart from when it starts to move stuff. Then we've got a real problem. There we go. We get to choose our... Can I... If I bring my hand around there. There we go. There you go. Can you see that? Yeah, that's better. The light is helping. The light is doing its job. So we get to choose our characters. And that's who we're going to think. That's there. And now the graphics are going to start animating, which is a problem. Now it's a blurry mess. It's a slow, blurry mess. Am I the one on the right now? I can't tell. Oh, yeah, I lost. Yeah. There are worse handhelds. There definitely are, but not many. Okay, getting the batteries out is also annoying because the flap stays connected. I have to prise them out. I will use the cutty snark to prise them out. Right. It's an awful machine anyway. It has some interesting games though, it really does. Like I say, it's got Resident Evil on it, which is fairly impressive. But they're just so hard to play because the screen just becomes a mess of white and black. And it becomes impossible almost to read or do anything on it. Right, so that was 1997. And then 1998, a long time after the original Game Boy release, Nintendo finally released the Game Boy Color. This is obviously not one of the original releases. This is one of the later Game Boy Colors. But yeah, this was really only a tiny update to the Game Boy, but then it did enough. It added color. And yeah, they were already winning anyway, so what else did they need to do? This one is actually all batteried up and stuff because Erica has actually been had been using this for a while. Yeah, I've got a flash card in this. Let's just choose something at random. I say at random, I am actually looking down the list. Let's do Bubble Ghost. It's fully backward compatible with Game Boy games, so you can play normal Game Boy games on it. And some of them, the later ones, well, it can add colour to games anyway, but the later ones had kind of the hint of the colours that the monochrome area should use. So that was kind of cool. So it kind of made the whole like bi-compatible games. Obviously, the colour games couldn't work on the original Game Boy, but yeah. But it's a nice screen, it really is. It's very clear. And again, bearing in mind that that this is an old handheld, and the screen is still very clear and very bright. Yeah, okay, well, that's Bubble Ghost anyway. Yeah, so yeah, the Game Boy Advance wasn't backlit, was it? And the SP, some of them had a really bad light on them. So unless you got a certain model, they were also... No, I'm leaving the batteries in that one because that one is in use, which just kind of says a lot about the Game Boy Color, really. One of my favourite handhelds of all time, the Game Boy Color. It's just really nice. The batteries last forever. There's only 2 of them. Lots of really, really good games. Lots of back catalogue from the original Game Boy. What's not to love? Right, and then in 1998 comes a handheld that I love even more than the Game Boy Color. It didn't have as many games, not by a long shot, but the ones it did have are really good. It's also an incredibly good handheld. It's also another one that I forgot to pick up a game for. So I will put it here so you can see it and bask in its glory whilst I go and get a game. Not the N-Gage, no. I do want an N-Gage. My dad had one back in the day, and I had an N70, so I hacked the games onto that. But I do want an N-Gage, but they go for such ridiculous prices now. Yeah, so this is the Neo Geo Pocket. Again, a colour machine with 2 batteries, which last quite a while, and this is amazing. Listen to this. That is a micro switch joystick, and it is glorious. It is an absolute thing of glory. Right, so is this the card one? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah. Just let me get the game started. Oh, it's like a role-playing thing. Never mind. This is the card version, but there's lots of arcade conversions. Obviously, it's SNK. They made some amazing arcade machines. There are lots of really good arcade conversions for this. So there are things like Metal Slug, which is an astonishing port on this on a handheld, and it plays really, really well. They they did a really good job of pocketizing their IP and making it work on a handheld rather than just trying to do conversions. They made versions that worked and were fun in their own way. Yeah, SNK did a good job on this. Yeah, this is the card game, which I could never get into. The only reason really I own it is because I did a video on the connection cable. So you could get SNK did a deal with Sega when the Dreamcast came out. So there was a version of Sonic for this, which was part of that deal. SNK's part of that deal. And basically, the Dreamcast, you could get a cable for it, which would plug into this, and you would have a couple of games like King of Fighters, which were on both, and you were able to kind of share your progress. So your high scores and stuff would be transported between the 2 versions of the game. It wasn't a huge amount of crossover really, but it was quite good. But yeah, hard to get hold of the Pocket for a decent price now. They really do attract a premium because it was quite a massive flop. There is a black and white version of this as well. The original Neo Geo Pocket was black and white, don't even bother getting that one. There's no point. There are some alright games for it, but there's no point. The better games are on here, and this plays all of the black and white games as well. Yeah, it just didn't sell in any kind of anywhere near the numbers that that Nintendo was seeing. I think that's the problem, is that the SNK kind of looked at how much they were being beaten by Nintendo, and they just kind of said, "Oh well, that's it then. We've lost." I think if they saw now that nobody beats Nintendo in the handheld market, maybe they'd have lasted a bit longer and they would have just carried on. But because certainly other companies did. Oh, and we're about to talk about that one right now. So, Bandai made the obviously the design master, but they've got a kind of a long storied history in gaming. Not a good history in gaming for the most part, but a long storied one. So obviously the Apple Pippin, the Playdia, a few other weird consoles as well. But yeah, none of them did particularly well. But they did release the Wonderswan, and the Wonderswan is enough to forgive them for every single other one, because the Wonderswan is one of the best handheld gaming machines ever released. These are the free versions. So this is the black and white original. This is the colour, which is the only one you really need, to be honest. Oh, that screen is horrible. This is not my normal day-to-day use one. This stuff needs a lot of cleaning. Yeah, so the colour, which is really the only one you actually need. And the crystal, which is better battery life, better screen quality as well. But really, these are so expensive, you don't need them. Just buy a colour, it's fine. Don't bother with the black and white one, as with the Neo Geo Pocket. Black and white games all work on here anyway. It takes one battery, and that battery lasts for a very long time. Now, the I've got like multiple Wonderswans, mate. If you want to talk afterwards. I bought a lot of these before they got popular, so they were very cheap. I mean, they're expensive. Just before we get into any kind of deal, I should make that clear. Yeah, so one battery, and it powers it for a long time as well. Now, there's a reason for that. There is one problem with it. The screen, although it's really good, the screen is very good. It's almost impossible to see in anything except perfect light. So, oh, we've got a cartridge in here already. So we've got Final Fantasy, yeah. So Final Fantasy's on here, Resident Evil's on here. Lots of companies put big IPs onto this machine, and that's how popular it was. At one point, and this doesn't sound impressive, but trust me, it was. It had 18% of the handheld market in Japan. Now, again, that doesn't sound like a huge number, but it was the closest anyone had come to Nintendo ever since the Game Boy was released. So they did a good job. And there's part of the reason is that this was designed by Gunpei Yokoi. If you remember from earlier, Gunpei Yokoi was the guy who designed and came up with the idea of the Game Boy. He is also the guy who came up with the Virtual Boy, but again, that still was a better machine than it seemed to be. It just had some issues. But yeah, he designed this for Bandai when he left Nintendo briefly. So yeah, it is a fantastic machine. Can we get... Oh, that's not bad, actually. Yeah, it's a really hard screen to see. This machine is literally the reason why I put this light here. So we could get a good look at this screen. And it's fantastic. The screen works well when you've got the right light. The battery lasts forever and it only takes one of them. And there are a fantastic collection of games for this. There are so many games. A lot of them are in Japanese, obviously, because it never got released outside Japan, which is a crime, by the way. Yeah, if Bandai wants to go ahead and release a Wonderswan Mini, I'll be very happy. Just get it out there. Lots of good games they can pick up. Yeah, it's going to be hard to see properly. But anyway, the screen, when you get the right light, works really well. There's no ghosting. It's really well designed. So you'll see it's got two sets of controls here. Now, I like the Lynx, because the Lynx has got two sets of controls, but the reason why, I don't think I even explain this, so the reason why the Lynx has got two sets of controls is because it can be used by left and right-handed people. So you can flip the screen upside down to use different hands. But this has got it because you can play some games that way. And so there's Space Invader clones where you can play down here with the screen going up and down. And there's a Beat Mania game on here from Konami, which does the same thing, where you play with it coming down towards the screen. Really good. Yeah, tons of genuinely great games for this machine. And can we see? Yeah, no, it's too dark now. Oh, no, we get light. Anyway, of any of these machines, there are a few machines which I'd say you can get them. But one of the machines I would absolutely say, if you want a decent retro handheld machine, is get this. There is a multi-cart, yeah. It's hard to get hold of though. I'm trying to convince the guy who runs Retro HQ that he wants to do a Wonderswan one. I didn't drop it, it was fine. There are also loads of licensed versions of this. So this Final Fantasy game came in a box with a special Final Fantasy Wonderswan, which had all Final Fantasy logos over it, and like a special keychain and all sorts of things. It was a really, really nice box there. We gave it away as our very first prize on review, so that's kind of another cool callback. Cool callback. Right. Great handheld anyway, really, really good handheld. Okay, well, here's a nice dive. This is the Cybiko. It's awful. And invariably, if you buy one, it won't work. Because it's got, there's basically a death system inside it where stuff just kind of fuses and then it will never boot up ever again. This one doesn't boot up. It did boot up for a very brief period, but it doesn't now. The batteries are gone as well, but you can replace the batteries. They're kind of a standard gunstick one you can find elsewhere. The machine itself was kind of interesting and was moderately successful, sold about 500,000 units. That's not terrible. Designed by a Russian company whose funding was unknown. It effectively was designed as being kind of a wireless Oh yeah, this aerial was just destroyed itself. That's how bad this machine is. Bear with me. Yeah, this aerial shouldn't be doing that. That should be like that. The rubber is literally just disintegrated. Yeah. So I had an aerial which wasn't as wonky as that normally. And you could basically have wireless chat rooms. So you'd all be in a room and you'd be able to send information to each other, kind of like a short distance SMS. Kind of cool. There are also some games that let you kind of do multiplayer as well, and you could download games and share them amongst people and things like that. Kind of interesting, not enough to worry about. I'm not going to bother trying to fix this. I don't think. Maybe I will. It might be interesting to do a video on attempting to unbrick it. It is bricked. But we'll try maybe at some point, maybe on video, to unbrick it, or I might just ignore it and leave it in a cupboard like it's been for ages. I have been tempted to buy another one, but I've got a feeling it'll probably break as well. Right. Where's that? I'll get this machine. I haven't got this machine, but I will get it because it is a good machine, and it does deserve to be talked about as well. Right. So, in the dim and distant past, well, look at my year sheet, 2000 odd era, 1999 really, because that's when it first came out. There was a handheld system called the Palm. Palm was ahead of its time, really ahead of its time, was loved by everyone that used it, and was quite powerful. And it was used for little PDAs basically, but Tapwave came along and they said, well, why don't we just make a games platform out of it? I don't think this will power on because the battery is nearly dead, completely dead, and there's no replacements for it. But it is a lovely little device. Obviously didn't succeed. I think that's fairly obvious. But yeah, it's based on the Palmos system, because it could run Palmos games, and there were quite a few of those at that point. It had a fairly powerful 32-bit processor in it, and there were quite a few games that came out for it, and box ones as well. And also, it's a metal shell. There's like an aluminium shell around it. It's very nice. Yeah, my little clips that hold the pen in are broken, so it's got a pen because it's a touchscreen. But the little clips have melted because they were rubber. Yeah, it's a lovely little device. The prices kind of waver. They go up and they go down. If you can get one when they're cheap, you should, because they are lovely. But the battery will be dying, and you can technically replace them, but not easily. So, and it's getting harder and harder all the time. But a lovely device all the same. And I owned one in the day, and as with many things, you don't assume that these things are ever going to be worth keeping on hold of. And so I didn't. And then I kind of wished I had. And I got another one, a lot cheaper than I thought I ever would as well. Just go to show that patience is the biggest virtue when you're doing retro collecting. Thank you for following Fruity Gary Goyle. I'm going to assume. I can just about read it. Sorry, the screen is a long way from me, and I forgot to put alerts on this new scene. Anyway. Apologies, by the way, if I missed anybody who followed or anything like that. It is appreciated. Thank you very much. Right. So, okay, this is an interesting machine. I think most people in the retro community know the history of this machine, but it's an interesting story all the same. So, the Tiger Telematics, not the same company by the way, a different Tiger. Tiger Telematics Gizmondo. This is it's an interesting machine. It's also very sticky because it's got rubber that's slowly leaching oils and dying, as they all do. This won't turn on, although it does have my battery modification. So we made this. The other thing re-enthused does is we've got a program called Keep It Alive, and we do lots of mods and stuff to keep machines running. And one of the mods is a battery converter for this machine, so you can use a more readily available phone battery to run it. But this one has died, and I can't find the power supply, so alas, it won't be turned on. It's an interesting device. It was quite powerful. It could do 3D graphics. It had GPS in. There were games going to be coming out for it which used the GPS system to do sort of territorial things, so you could lock down territory, almost like Pokemon Go does now, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, the company was started by a coke fiend who stole money from a mob and then decided to crash a sports car into a tree. So it didn't really survive because of that. The company were basically partying the money down the drain, which is obviously heard a lot. And so this never really got a chance. It was an interesting model they had running. They had a lot of games signed up for it. There were a lot of publishers signed up for games. There are boxed games that were released, and they were fine. They were kind of okay. But they had like a model where you could get a cheaper machine and you get ads. And because of that, underneath the battery, I don't know why I'm doing that, I'm not going to take the battery out. Underneath the battery there's a SIM card, and this won't power up without a SIM card in it. It doesn't matter if the SIM card's dead or not. It can be a cancelled SIM card, but you have to have a SIM card in there. Because the idea was that it would instantly get adverts and show you adverts and stuff, and you get it cheaper. There was also an expensive one which didn't do that, but I think you still had to have the SIM card in for that as well. I was after one of these ones for ages, just because I love collecting retro stuff, and I couldn't get them. The prices were going ridiculous. And all of a sudden there was an auction for 3 of them, and it went for 40 quid. It's a weird thing in retro where if you're just patient, sometimes you just get lucky and you get these things. But yeah, 3 of them. One doesn't work. The other 2 do work to a degree. The degree that Gizmondo's work. Yeah, one is completely fried. I tried to fix it. I can't fix it. Right. This is one of my favourite little machines. So these are all these are machines from companies that intended to make like games platforms where they would sell software and stuff. Game Park, and it's good that Pete's actually in the chat. So Game Park were different. They wanted to make open source machines that let you just put whatever you wanted on them, including obviously emulation, but also open source games and homebrew stuff as well. They did the GP2X range of machines, the F100, F200, the Whiz, and then the last one they did was the Caanoo. And these are fantastic little handhelds. They really are. The GP2X ones as well. I've just literally just sold one of my GP2Xs, but they are lovely little handhelds, and they're still good now. They still play emulation fine now. Obviously, they're not going to play Sega Saturn and stuff, but for just simple animation, simple emulation like Mega Drive and stuff like that, they play it absolutely fine even now. And this one does some really, really good stuff as well. Are you going to turn on? I don't know if you're going to turn on. Oh no, you are going to turn on. Look at that. It's quite a nice screen. It's rechargeable. It's got a random light which tells you things. It's running Linux, as is the Linux, however you pronounce it, as does the the GP32. Yeah, so the actually that is a very interesting part of this. Thanks for bringing that up. So there was a company called Game Park. They made a machine called the GP32, which was also an open source handheld. Went very popular. Half of the company decided they wanted then to make a competitor to the Nintendo DS called the XGD, but the other half said no, we just want to make these like open source handhelds so people could put what they want on them. And so they had a huge break apart. Thank you for following. Sav28801. I'm too far away from the screen. And so the company split in half, and half of them became Game Park, and they went on to make the SGD, which flopped massively. The other half were Game Park Holdings, which released the GP2X and the Caanoo. They went on for a longer period, but eventually they just made software and they stopped making hardware. A lot of those people then joined to make a company called GPD, which is still alive now and making open source handhelds again. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, so this uses an SD card to load up software. It can also you can get a Wi-Fi adapter for it and stuff as well. So yeah, there's lots of emulators on here, including there's this Intellivision emulator, which looks like it's based on my work on the GP2X, and I'm not credited, which is slightly annoying. So yeah, you could do all sorts of emulation on here. I don't know if I got any ROMs on here, because I recently cleared the I cleared the card off. But yeah, really still very good for very simple emulation for 8 and 16-bit machines, and they're still great now. They're getting expensive to buy. No, I told you to turn off. Why aren't you turning off? There you go. You turn off now? Yeah, you turn off now. Getting expensive to buy, especially the Caanoo. I got this in Japan in the end. I've been after one of these for ages. I was after the Whiz as well, but I didn't get one. But in the end, I got it in Japan for quite cheap because nobody was bidding on it, which is kind of handy. I've never even seen them in Japan before, so I didn't realise they were even a thing in Japan. But apparently so. I mean, they're a Korean. They're made by a Korean company, but doesn't guarantee it's in Japan. Right. Now that's my list done. However, there is one more machine, and this thing, which is awful, by the way, absolutely atrocious. So this is the VideoNow. I don't actually have any games for it, but it was an offshoot of. So oh god, this one's really dirty as well. I sent the cleaner one to Peter to Nostalgia Nerd. So this one's quite dirty. Yeah. So it's basically a video playing machine that they released, which could play little short cartoons and stuff from optical discs for kids, for car journeys and things. Quite good. I don't. If my daughter's still in the chat, did I ever buy you and Sally one of those? Because I've got a vague memory I did, but it's only a vague memory. If she's not, I'll ask her at some point. But they decided then they'd get onto the old game playing malarkey because people were making a lot of money from it, and so they released kind of simple games. But they were just basically choosing from menus and stuff. So it's kind of weird that they had all of these buttons and things to do that. I think maybe they had They had great aspirations, but they never kind of went through with them. It's very bad. Of course it is. Right, so I think what we'll do is we'll finish off by taking a little look at the Select-a-game, because I said we would. If you haven't seen my series on replacing broken plastic parts, by the way, this is the machine that I cast. One of the doors were missing, so I cast it in plastic. Made a mold of it and cast it in plastic to replace it. And yeah, one of them is fake, one of them is real. Turned out pretty well. It's a good series, by the way, if I say so myself. Really easy for someone to get into if you need to replace parts or just make things as well. You can just carve stuff or 3D print it and then cast it in plastic, and you get a really nice result at the end. Yeah, so this is an old machine. It's not using LCD, it's using vacuum fluorescent display. So it's basically lights that light up or don't light up depending on what it needs to show on the screen. It means that the games really are interpretations of the games more than anything. Right, so let's get the we'll get Pacman out, which is a box game I got. So this is Pacman, or like I said, an interpretation of Pacman. And each of the games, because obviously this is just an array of lights, this little bit comes off here, and each of the games came with this little that little overlay. And kind of the overlay sets the actual game screen up, and then the cartridge goes in the side. Yeah. There we go. See the numbers there counting up. That is an LCD, by the way. That's just a liquid crystal display. That's not the main thing. So if we, which one do you expect me to push? Oh, there we go. There you go, and there's the lights. And so basically the flashing light you'll see is us. The static lights are pills, and the blue lights are ghosts. It's really easy to lose yourself as well. And so the only way we know where we are is the actual lines on the grid. I've lost myself. I completely lost myself. I got eaten by a ghost. But it's kind of fascinating. It's kind of fascinating that they kind of how they've managed to make this game just using lights and a drawn grid. I was after this machine for so long because it was really hard to get. Now this is quite rare. But it's out there. But it was replaced by the even rarer Adventure Vision, which is basically this, but in a desktop system. Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of ingenious design where you can just kind of, you don't have to have like masses of microprocessors and stuff. You can make stuff work, like yeah, mechanical stuff, or just this, which just uses basically logic and lights. It's amazing. I haven't got Space Invaders down with me. It's all the way over there, so I can't get it. But that's even more impressive because it's just lights, but you do feel like it's playing Space Invaders. I've had to make my own overlays for these as well, which are available again on the re-enthused website. If anyone does get hold of one of these and they're missing overlays for games, we've made a couple of them, like the football, basketball, and Space Invaders. We've made overlays replacement. You can just print them on transparencies and cut them out to fit this screen, and it just works. But yeah, it's a fascinating little device, and yeah, a really nice way of them basically reusing the technology, because they made lots of little LCD handhelds which use this same technology, and in fact all the boxes look exactly the same as these. So they they just took the code, the logic that they used to make those games, put them in a cartridge, and they made the machine which would turn lights on and off depending on that logic. And they did it with all their basketball games and everything as well, all their sports games. And it was a fascinating use of technology. But yeah, then they made the Adventure Vision, which was effectively this, but in a kind of desktop mode. I want one badly. Quang's got one. I'm very jealous of it. But yeah, they are fascinating device. I do love the where they make something just kind of out of nothing effectively, and it's always more impressive than when you get a machine that's just got a million microprocessors to make it do something. It's just a way more impressive to see something like this doing the same thing effectively, just with a much simpler technology. Right, well that's like an hour and a half of me wittering on. Thanks to everybody that joined me on my 5th birthday. Not my 5th birthday, obviously, I'm slightly older than that. But my channel's 5th birthday. Re-Enthused has now been around for 5 whole years. No, it's not weird. It is very pretty. It's a very pretty device, and the way it works is very pretty as well. Yeah, so it's been an interesting 5 years. We've got over 350 odd, probably approaching 600, I would assume. 600, 400, sorry. Not 600 yet. Videos all on retro stuff, not just gaming, not just computers, repair videos, training videos, learning videos, so learning how to solder and stuff like that and how to diagnose problems. We've also got videos on TV, retro television, and retro toys as well, and just basic technology too. So yeah, if you're not subscribed to our channel, please do. Yeah, and thanks for joining. I now need to. Oh God, I now need to get up close. Sorry, I'm going far too close. I know. I now need to go and do a raid thingy. I am a pro streamer, as you can tell. I've just literally brought up my own channel. That doesn't work. That's not how that works. Pro streamer. Alright, well let's raid Skull and Villainy, which will be doing some retro point and clicky stuff. Almost certainly. I'm very glad you enjoyed it, Gargle. We will be back to doing full-time streaming again. We've been off because, yeah, unfortunately the COVID's hit us somewhat. But we will be back doing streaming soon, and it will be lots of retro. Well, it's always retro hardware. Occasionally we'll play Fallout New Vegas, but it's mostly retro hardware. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. Please do come back again. Please do check out my YouTube channel and enjoy Scum and Villainy, who do very fine work as well. See you next time.